Welcome to The Planner's Perspective with Jessie Kara. This is the podcast for wedding planners and couples navigating South Asian weddings and everything that comes with them. Culture, family dynamics, money, design, expectations, and the real conversations no one prepares you for. I'm Jessie Kara, a South Asian wedding planner and educator trusted by couples and families when things get complicated. Here we go beyond timelines and Pinterest boards and talk about what actually happens behind the scenes. If you're a planner stepping into South Asian weddings or a couple who wants to understand the process more deeply, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome back to The Planner's Perspective. I'm Jessie Kara, award-winning South Asian wedding planner and designer. If you've been listening to this series, you've heard how this all started, how it grew, what it cost, and the moments that shaped me along the way. And where I want to start today is with something that felt like a full circle moment for me. I ended up coming back to planning and coordination a big way, working on a reception for 1,400 people on a cranberry field for Arjun Buller. And I can say this honestly, I absolutely loved it. I thrive under pressure, so being back in that environment, being responsible for the overall vision, hearing what the client wanted, and then bringing it to life at that scale, it reminded me of something I hadn't felt in a while. It felt validating. It felt like I was back in a part of the work that I had missed more than I had realized. And at the same time, I didn't charge enough. And that's something I've said multiple times throughout this series. But this time it hit differently because I could see both sides so clearly. I could see how much I loved the work, and at the same time, I could feel the weight of everything that comes with it. Because what I've learned over time is that the bigger the event, the bigger everything becomes. The pressure is bigger, the expectations are bigger, and for me, the issues around money have been bigger too. The larger events are where I've had the most bounce checks, the most failed payments, the most time spent chasing money that I've already worked for. And that changes your relationship with your work. It's just no longer about creating something beautiful. Like I have had people come up to me and ask me what my favorite event was, and I'm not able to say so because there's this negativity attached to it. And even though I may have loved the location or the venue, it just doesn't feel good. And that is why there's so many events that I've done that aren't even like they don't make it onto my portfolio in my galleries or on my Instagram feed because it's no longer just about creating something beautiful. It becomes about protecting yourself, following up, having conversations you don't want to have, carrying stress that has nothing to do with the actual event itself. And I realized something that very clearly in that season. If I didn't respect myself and my boundaries, nobody else would. And that's not something anyone teaches you when you start, especially when you're someone who cares deeply, who wants to do a great job, who wants people to be happy. You think that's what builds strong relationships. You think if you just give more, show up more, it will all work out. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And that realization forced me to start asking different questions. What actually brings me joy? What do I want my day to day to look like? What kind of life am I actually building here? Because I love creating. That has never gone away. I love hearing a vision, understanding what a client wants, and then watching their face when it's brought to life in a way that exceeds what they imagined. That feeling is still there. But I also realized that there was another side of me that had grown over the years. The part of me that genuinely loves helping other entrepreneurs and couples, helping them avoid the mistakes I made, helping them fall faster so they can get up faster, helping them build something without it costing them what it cost me. And that felt different. It felt lighter. It felt more aligned. So, for a long time, I tried to balance both. I continued planning and designing while also building other streams of income. I started offering in person workshops, creating courses, building memberships, digital products. And I didn't do that just to make more money. I did it because I had experienced what it feels like to rely on one stream of income that is unpredictable, high pressure, and tied to your physical presence. I've made a mistake when it comes to pricing. I've had issues receiving payment. I've experienced what happens when your business starts to impact your personal life. I'm not ready to go deeper into that part just yet, but what I will say is that those experiences shaped how I think about money, security, and what we're actually building when we say we're building a business. Because of that, I believe very strongly that women need to have multiple streams of income, not just to grow, not just to scale, but to protect themselves, to create a cushion, to create stability, so that if something happens, there's income coming in to keep you afloat so you can be present in whatever you're going through instead of feeling like everything is going to collapse if you take a step back. Having multiple streams of income doesn't just support the people who purchase from us, it supports our future self. It gives us options, space. It gives us an exit plan if we ever need one. And I personally have seen both sides of that. There were seasons where I built those streams intentionally, and there were seasons where planning took over and I stopped paying attention to them. I let them sit. I didn't nurture them the way I should have because I was pulled back into what I knew, what I was comfortable in, what I had built for years. And now I'm in a season where I'm cleaning that up. I'm bringing those dreams back, but from a different place. Not from pressure, not from fear, but from alignment. From asking, how do I build something that supports my life instead of something that constantly requires me to keep up with it? A big part of that has been finding new ways to support people without relying only on time. I started a YouTube series where I openly talk about my numbers, what I'm making. Most of it is not what I'm not making, what's working, what's not. And that came from the same place as everything else I've built, wanting to help other entrepreneurs see the reality of what this looks like behind the scenes. Because I know what it feels like to think you're the only one struggling, the only one figuring it out, the only one making mistakes. And if me sharing that helps someone move differently, then it is worth it. And then there's the part of me that just builds, the part of me that gets an idea and doesn't want to sit on it. I spent so much time thinking about launching a podcast, going back and forth, overthinking it, questioning it, wondering if I was ready, wondering if it made sense. And then one day I decided I wasn't going to think about it anymore. I was just going to do it. And I did. And that's something I've learned about myself over time. When I decide I want something, I move. I don't wait for perfect timing. I don't wait for everything to make sense. I go. And that same mindset is what led me into building my web app. I was with my business coach, James Wedmore, and we were learning about the latest technology to support our students. And I realized something in that moment. Courses are great. They give you information, they give you guidance. But there are times you need more than that. You need support in real time. You need clarity when you're actually making a decision, not days later on a call. I don't always have the time or the bandwidth to be there for everyone in that. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't just about how I could support others better. It's also about me. It's about the kind of life I want to build. Because I've experienced what it feels like to have a business that depends on you being everywhere all the time, where income is tied to your presence, your energy, your visibility. And while I love what I do, I also know that I don't want to build a life where everything relies on me constantly showing up in that way. I want balance. I want space. I want to build something that supports my life, not something that takes away from it. And that's where this started to shift. Started asking myself, how do I take everything I've learned over the past 2 decades and package it in a way that still supports people at a high level, but doesn't require me to be in every single room, answering every single question at every single moment? How do I still guide people without physically being there? And that's where this app came from. Not just from a place of solving a problem for brides, but from a place of redefining how I want to show up in my business and my life. It's about embracing technology in a way that actually creates freedom, not more pressure. And what I built is not just a tool, it's a guided experience because I kept seeing the same thing over and over again with brides planning South Asian weddings. The overwhelm, the second guessing, the feeling of being behind before they even started, the pressure of multiple events, large guest counts, family expectations, budgets that are constantly shifting. And I kept coming back to one question. What would I give my client if I wasn't their planner, but I still needed them to get this right? And the answer wasn't just a tech checklist. It wasn't just a budget. It wasn't just timelines, because those things on their own don't actually solve the problem. What they need is guidance. They need structure. They need to understand not just what to do, but when to do it and why it matters. They need to see how one decision impacts another. They need to feel like someone is walking them through the process, so they are not constantly second guessing themselves. And that is exactly how this was built. This is not something you open try to figure out on your own. This is a guided planning system. It walks you through your wedding step by step, helping you make decisions with clarity instead of pressure. From your budgets to your guest list to your seating charts to your timelines across multiple events. Everything is connected in a way that actually makes sense, because that is where most people struggle. It's not that they are not capable, it's that they do not have structure. They do not have visibility. They do not have someone showing them how it all comes together. And when you don't have that, everything feels heavier than it needs to be. You spend more than you plan. You make decisions based on pressure instead of intention. You miss details that matter, and you carry stress that you don't need to carry. So, this is not about replacing a planner. This is for the bride who is not hiring a full service planner, the bride who might have a day of coordinator but is doing everything leading up to herself, the bride who wants to feel in control of her wedding without feeling overwhelmed by it. But for me, it's also about something bigger. It's about building a business that allows me to show up in my life differently, to still create, to still guide, to still support at a high level, but in a way that gives me space to breathe, to be present, and to continue evolving. And that's what this entire series has been about. Not just what I did, but what it cost, what I learned, and who I became because of it. Because you can build something successful and still feel lost inside of it. You can choose to build something differently. You can choose to evolve. You can choose to create something that supports your life instead of constantly demanding from it. And that's the season I'm in right now. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next episode. If today's episode helped things click or gave you a new perspective, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. This podcast exists to support planners in doing their best work and to help couples feel informed, confident, and prepared as they navigate their very own South Asian wedding. If there's something specific you want me to talk about, an episode idea you'd love to hear, a planning story you want to share, or a question you're sitting with, there's a link in the show notes where you can send it all in. I promise I will read every submission, and many of them will shape future episodes. You can connect with me at www.jessiekara.com or on Instagram at jessiekara. If you're ready to navigate South Asian weddings with intention and confidence, I'll see you there. And if this podcast is supporting you in any way, I would truly appreciate you taking a moment to leave a 5-star review. It helps more planners and couples find these conversations and keep the space growing. Until next time, trust your perspective and plan with clarity.